Happiness through curiosity on TRS Clips. First rule is that when a baby is born, they note down the time, they note down the place, and obviously the date.
Right.
And that's the map of the sky that you draw out on your astrological chart.
Correct.
That's the basic. Then the other logic here is that each of these planets, the sun, each of these celestial bodies, like the sun, the moon, and the planets, and even their combinations, have a certain kind of effect on the astrological chart.
Correct.
BK Shivani on this show said that astrological charts are great representations of a soul's journey till the point they took this birth. In terms of all the karmas from the previous births land up as this astrological chart. And it's a likely scenario of what can happen in your life. But as you move forward in this lifetime, through your actions, through your karmas, through your sadhana, your meditations and disciplines, maybe you can even shift your astrological charts and you can make it better for yourself. Or if you do evil things, you can make it worse for yourself. So it's just the mapping of the soul's journey till that point. Now, I also know that it's difficult to change your astrological chart for the average everyday person who's going to office, coming back home, having a family, having things to do. So if you know about your own astrological chart, it just makes living slightly more convenient. Or you can anticipate that certain difficult phases are coming. And if you have a spiritual journey, if you're into Tantra, you'll be able to combine your practices with the best outcomes for your future. Have I missed out any point here from the basics?
No, most of it is correct, but the few points I look at it differently.
Sure.
So I'll explain them. More or less what you told is right. So basically, having covered the part about the difference, and also there are just one more line, the Western system uses certain different techniques than we do. Okay. Some of those have also been integrated into certain aspects of astrology in India, but that's more deeper. We'll go later into that if the conversation goes there. But coming back to...
It will.
coming back to the topic. So basically, yeah, at the moment when it is born, when somebody is born for that matter, not just an individual, by the way, it could also be an event. So there are different branches of astrology in Hindu system. So one, there is the Jatakam, which is for the individual horoscope. Then there is something known as Muhurta. Muhurta means at this specific moment, what are the planetary combinations there? And from there you can make certain predictions. Or for example, suppose you are starting a company. Okay, the moment the company is getting registered, or you are entering into a new house, the moment you are entering into the new house, etc., the graha conditions at that moment can tell you what is likely to happen in the future. Okay, so that's like a birth of a thing. Birth need not be an animate, it can be an inanimate object also. Looking at the time when an individual is taking oath, you can predict that how his party or that individual in oath in terms of, say, even a political party or somebody in some other capacity. You can say that how things are going to go. Okay. So not going into more details on this, but this is the broad outlook of things. Oh, and there is another aspect of Jyotisha, which is a bit rare, which is like a destiny of land masses. Okay, this is something I have not explored too much, but it is also there, which means that, so what is the destiny of this, say, Southeast Asia or certain parts of the world? So that has its own rules also. But that is the aspect of Jyotish that is least explored, more or less. The most common is individual horoscopes and, of course, muhurtas. Okay. Now, when a person is born, there's date, time, place, these things. From this, you can get a map of the skies. Map means basically, after the Rashis, there are 12 Rashis I mentioned. The next most important thing is the 9 grahas. Okay.
12 houses, 12 signs.
12 signs, 12 Rashis. The signs of the Rashis, what you call, which is like the Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, and all this same thing. Okay.
On an Indian astrological chart, do the 12 different houses represent different aspects of your life? Like, I have heard that the first house represents your personality, second house represents your marriage.
Yes, of course. That is the whole basis using which you predict.
Okay.
But only Rashis are not enough. Next comes the grahas. 9 grahas are there, the Navagrahas. So it is important here because to mention this, So the word graha means, it comes from the root word in Sanskrit, which means to grasp. Okay, something that grasps your mind and governs you, basically. So are these actually the physical planets? Yes and no. Both are important to understand while we take the position of the physical planets, but let us, for the sake of discussion, assume that a graha is like the astral projection of one of the physical planets.
Wow.
Okay. Yeah. That is why you are able to also manipulate the grahas a bit. That comes in the last part of Jyotish. And by the way, not just in the East, in Western occult also, they have ways of invoking planets. Okay. So what exactly is it that is invoking? If you're doing certain sadhanas for Jupiter, for example, Brihaspati, which is Jupiter, suppose. Okay. Is it the physical planet? Is it changing anything? Nothing. But everything has its own, let us just take a projection of itself. That projection, which contains the essence, the tattva of the graha, can interact with you and cause certain changes one way or the other, depending on how you are approaching it.
For example, Saturn is Shani, is the god spoken about in the Puranas.
No, it's not like that. So God means not in the god. So these are grahas.
Is the Devta spoken about in the
Devatas are higher than this. Devata means if you say Shiva or Ganpati, they're much higher than this.
Okay.
So
This is just personification of the planets.
Personification, correct word.
Okay.
Personification of the planets. Let's look at it that way. Okay.
And it has certain effects.
It can have effects if you approach it in a certain manner, positive and negative both. It is an accumulation of, right, as you said, the birth chart gives you an accumulation of what karmas you might have done till that point of time. Okay. Now what happens, as I was mentioning in the other podcast, is that 99% of the people, I think, I don't know whether I mentioned it, so 99% of the people lead their life just as a reaction to actions they have performed. So when I get a question from somebody that what is the purpose of my life, I'm afraid to say out of 100 people, 99 have no purpose. But you are just reacting to things that have happened. That's all. Okay. Purpose and all that comes in later. For very few people, they have it. Most are just, what purpose? You finish school, you go into college, then you work, then you get married, then you have kids, then you grow older, then you die. So that's all. कौन सा purpose है? So it's just reaction. Sometimes you are happy, sometimes you are sad. There's that and all that. So what happens, what I mean by that is that because of the momentum of actions you have done, more or less your destiny is, in broad lines, it is set. Which means that if you look at a horoscope at the moment of birth and it is indicating, suppose, that this person will have a bad marriage. Okay. There are almost 99 to 100% chance that he will go through bad relationships or marriage in the context of the times. Okay. Say context of the times means, suppose in say 500 years ago, somebody is seeing a chart and saying that your spouse is going to die. Okay. 500 years ago, we did not have divorces and all that as much. So today, spouse will not die, but divorce ho jayega, something like that. Okay. So more or less, that's what I mean is that because the accumulated momentum of karmas are such that the chart kind of 80 to 90% will sort of give you a broad indication of where it is going, and it will happen that way. The intensity may differ, but the basic lines are kind of set, because at any given point, a person is not alone, or he is not outside of time. There is a past and there is the future. The pressure from the past and the pull from the future is what makes you at this moment in time. And only Kal Bhairav can take you out of time.
Okay. Before we go into a very deep conversation about Kal Bhairav and how deities are also a part of this, again, I have to boil it down to the ABCs here. Do you want to talk about the 12 houses right now? Or do you want to talk about the planets and all the effects?
Yeah, sure. But before that, there's one more small aspect that needs to be mentioned. So there are 3 types of karmas, more or less. Okay. For easy understanding. And it plays a part in the Jyotisha, and it's relevant to the question of how your birth chart affects you. Okay. So first is, there's one part of the karma that is drira. Drira means fixed. Okay. Certain combinations can indicate in certain individuals, it may not be in everybody, that some karma is fixed. Fixed karma means you just have to bear with it. You can't do anything about it. It cannot be changed. You will have to face it. Nobody in the world can change it. Then there is some part of the karmas which are drira adrira, which means that fixed and unfixed. Which means basically, fundamentally, it translates to this, that if you do some kind of upaya pariharam means some specific mantras or some puja, etc., depending on the horoscope, there is a chance that part of it will be negated, and maybe certain, say, intensity was coming at 10, it comes down to 3 or 2 or something. It's more bearable. Okay. And then the third is the adrira, which is not fixed. Not fixed karmas are just showing a tendency. They're very easy to change. You don't need to chant or do any ritual. All you need is a strong mind. You just want the willpower. Using your willpower, you can change it. So these are 3 types of karmas that will reflect in a horoscope.
I've been advised not to understand the laws of karmas that deeply.
Okay.
By Gauranga Das Prabhu. He was on the show last week.
Okay.
And when I kept deep diving into questions related to karma, he said, don't try understanding it fully. He spoke about these things. He spoke about prarabdha karma and all those aspects as well. But he's like, in the Gita, there's a part that says karma is such a complex subject to understand that you'll go crazy if you try understanding the...
I have a different perspective of this. So what I think that aspect is, so karmana gahana gati, there's a particular phrase in the Gita. So currents of karma are very deep. Yes, that is true to the extent that if you want to find out that I am sitting here and I suddenly have a headache, what is the karmic reason for me to get a headache? You will not find that reason. Because there might have been something. But what I am talking about is something that is very fundamental to understanding Jyotish. Okay, there's nothing, the way I look at it. So these 3, if you don't understand, you will not understand that why is it that certain things can be changed and certain things cannot be changed. And I just remembered, I think I had read one of those cartoon strips long back. I used to read Kelvin and Hobbes, and he makes this wonderful statement. I forgot that, God give me the strength to what cannot be changed, that you enjoy it, or something like that. It's a very fantastic line that was there. So there are certain aspects which you can't change in certain individuals. Okay. There are certain combinations. And I've seen that in the course of when I have done readings and all that. These days I do very less, but when I've done them, so that nobody can change. It doesn't matter. You can go to all the temples in the world, go to every single spiritual person in the world, every person, jayega hi nahi, hoga hi nahi.
If you're only meant to live for 39 years of your life, you'll die at age 39. That's one example of something like this.
Let's say sort of, it depends. It's not that simple.
Okay.
There are certain combinations of grahas which, if present, and I'll not go into details of that, because the problem with astrology though is that right about when you start combinations, everybody opens their chart first thing. Okay. That's the last thing you should do, because you will never be objective when you are doing your own analysis. You have to learn from other people. Okay. People with whom you have no emotional connect. That will give you the lesson. Anyway, so certain combinations are there which, if present, it indicates that it's a very fixed karma.
Can you give an example of a karma which can be changed through willpower?
So many things. For example, I'm growing fat. I need to become thin. All right, start exercising, eat less, fast. Willpower is acting. See, in the yogic format, as I was just telling you, there's the physical body, there is the vital plane where there's the astral body, and then there's the mind. A perfectly working yogi is one where the mind controls the vital, your emotional, and the emotions and the vital body controls your physical body. But for people, what happens? Just the ulta. Mind has no control. So emotions that control A to Z. I feel like eating. I feel like going out with my friends. I feel like enjoying, etc. That's all your emotional talk. Okay.
And that's the goal of yoga, to have complete control over your mind.
Yes. And do you know what is the in another aspect, another way of looking at it, this vital power that is there. Who is the greatest representative of this vital force? Hanumanji. What does he do? Initially, when he's jumping over the ocean, he doesn't know what powers he has. Then he's told, then he gets it. Okay. And he sublimates it whole to the feet of Lord Rama. So, basically, the vital has tremendous power, but it should not make its own judgment. It puts itself into something higher. In this case, say the mind, or in the case of Lord Hanuman, he puts it to Rama. Okay. So the moment that is done, basically the idea is that don't let your emotions make the judgment. Okay. Emotions are a tremendous force. Nothing in this world can happen without emotions. But if you allow it to be your master, then it is a terrible master. Its role is that it should be in control of the mind, because the mind is objective. But that rarely happens in humanity.
As in, the mind should be able to control the emotions and not
Yes,
the other way
mind should
around.
give an order and the emotions should follow. But that's very difficult to achieve. That is if you already achieve that, then everybody will fall at your feet. You are already a saint.
Have you achieved?
Oh no, forget me. I am just an ordinary person.
Okay.
I am just ordinary person. That's all.
I probably have spoken to 2 or 3 people on this show who I believe have come close to it. I'm not going to take names, but like of everyone I've spoken. And these are obviously like spiritually inclined people who I think may have come a little close to it.
Possible.
Yeah.
You meet a lot of spiritual people, so
It's the goal of yoga. Union between...
that's one goal of yoga. Let's put it this way. Because everything is, the more you look, the more you see that there are things.
So if you enjoyed this video, subscribe to TRS Clips for more.